talk to you, because
Oh,
that would
okay.
be more natural.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Great.
Hello.
So,
All right,
do you want to
so
shut the door?
We're recording. I guess you have to go.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you guys book this room?
No, but we're doing it as an emergency need to use for the video thing. If anybody needs it, we can hopefully steal it for a few minutes.
The office manager, he's always doing that. Okay, say when.
Anytime's good.
Oh, great. So, Raj, why is it important that we ask who has power over food?
Well, if you're interested in hunger, or if you're interested in diabetes, or if you're interested in a range of issues that are related to diet, pull back the immediate sort of medicalization of that issue, and you find that actually the origins of hunger, for example, the origins of certainly of overweight in the United States, have much more to do with power than they do with any specific kind of individual failing or something that can be treated individually. Because hunger, the world over, isn't a problem of an insufficiency of food. It's a problem of not having enough power to be able to control the diet you have. And that means that if you are incredibly poor, you are unable to feed yourself because you just don't have the money. But what we're also seeing, there's the sort of, there used to be a time where the poor were very thin and the rich had collars that, sort of the necks that spilled over their collars. These days, poverty and overweight are, particularly in developing economies, two sides of the same coin. I mean, you don't often have people who are malnourished in the United States, but you do have people who are food insecure. And food insecurity is that condition where you are unsure in any given year where your next meal is coming from at some point during that year. And there is a very strong association between being food insecure and being overweight. And that association, again, has everything to do with power. Because if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, the chances are that you're going to be looking for calories that are cheap. And when you can buy, 420 calories of cola or 17 calories of lettuce for $1, and when $1.50 is about what a food stamp will stretch to per meal, then obviously power matters. So I think just if you want to understand the sort of deeper reason why people go hungry and why there are understanding some of the sort of deeper epidemiology. I think power is important. But I think it's also important just to take a step back from the individualization and the medicalization of what is understood to be sort of diseases of diet, and understand why it is that we live in a society where those, these diseases are far more prevalent. You need to really be talking about power.
There's a lot more and more awareness about food-related health issues. How can people get involved in food security or food sovereignty movements?
So this term food sovereignty it comes from an international peasant movement called La Via Campesina, the peasant way. And they have there's a very long definition of what food sovereignty is, and it is on Wikipedia. But the essence of it is that it is about democracy in our food system. It is about, in other words, equalizing the inequalities in power that exist in the food system. And there are a lot of ways in which people are already doing that. In North America, there are 200 food policy councils, which involve local government, school boards, activists, farmers, chefs, working together to make sure that no one goes hungry in a community. But a lot of the ways that people, you have, so one of the ways that democracy works requires a certain kind of equality, and that means addressing the inequalities that exist in our democracies and in our economies right now. One of the ways to do that is to sort of push back against the power that the big food has accumulated, and professional associations, oddly, have emerged as one of the ways in which people can join and push back against these inequalities in power. But these inequalities in power are manifest all the way from from inequalities between nations at the World Trade Organization to inequalities in the household. And certainly one of the things we need to be talking about is the gender inequalities in power that exist, that prevent, that result in the fact that 60% of people who are malnourished today are women or girls. That's not an accident. It's a persistent fact, and it's one that has everything to do with an inequality in power. So in terms of getting involved in food sovereignty, certainly there are groups in the communities where we live, professional associations we may be a part of, certainly governments in which we are citizens, often democratic governments, though imperfect democracies always, but also within the household. And I think through many of the movements around the world, the social movements, the food movement, there are opportunities to get involved to try and address these inequalities in power.
Why were you interested in contributing to the PLOS Medicine series on big food?
Well, because it's a great honour. I mean, it's a terrific journal, and it's also an important subject in an important with an important audience that I think when one thinks of the politics of food. I mean, I find myself often speaking to audiences of people who are foodies in one way or another. But I also work with peasant movements, and I also work with some of groups of incredibly poor people who are fighting to make the food system more equal. But the food industry is very conscious of a groundswell of opinion around certainly many of the products that the food industry produces that are over-processed and that are obesogenic, that have various kinds of deleterious health impacts. And the food industry is kind of pushing back. And caught in the crosshairs are medical professionals in one way or another, finding themselves either assaulted by the food industry's information, or indeed the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry are coming together. So you have this booming new sort of field of nutraceuticals. And I think that it's important in that discussion to sort of move away from the sort of medical efficacy of one intervention over another and ask why it is that we live in a world where in the United States 1 in 3 children born in 2000 will develop type 2 diabetes. Why is it that we find ourselves in these peculiar and very deeply wrong situations to which the remedy is always an individual prescription rather than a discussion around social change? And I think that's why I was very pleased that the editors saw fit to have a discussion on big food. And I certainly think that for anyone in the medical profession concerned with something like diabetes, and 1 in 5 healthcare dollars in the US is spent taking care of someone with diabetes, the power of the food system is omnipresent, and we need to figure out ways of talking about it.
Great, thank you.
Maybe the one thing is for him to do a little introduction on camera of his own article, which we might at some point want to run
That's a great idea.
and next to the article. And if you would name the name of the journal too while you're...
Okay.
I've forgotten the title. It was one of these
Food sovereignty.
Power, gender, and the right to food.
Okay.
Hang on one sec. Okay. So as if you ask the question, don't speak to the camera.
Oh, don't. Okay.
Okay.
Food sovereignty, power, gender. Okay, so my name's Raj Patel, and I'm the author of Food Sovereignty, Power, Gender, and the Right to Food, which is in the latest issue of PLOS Medicine.
Great.
And if this time, actually, to do it that way, where you are introducing yourself, it does make sense to speak directly to the camera. So I'll just allow you to do one more time. And just say a little bit about it, the article, or the editorial. It's an essay, right?
It's an essay.
Yeah, just as if you were introducing it, doing your elevator pitch for that one article. Okay. And so you can say your name again, because that'd be good.
My name's Raj Patel, and I'm the author of Food Sovereignty, Power, Gender, and the Right to Food. And this is a commentary in the latest issue of the latest issue. Start again.
Over. Yeah.
My name's Raj Patel, and I'm the author of Food Sovereignty, Power, Gender, and the Right to Food. And it's a commentary in the latest issue of PLOS Medicine about one of the deep inequalities that is sort of characteristic of the world of food and hunger, but which often goes unspoken, which is around the inequality in gender. If you notice that around the world today, 60% of the nearly 1 billion people who are malnourished are women or girls, that's the point of departure for asking a series of questions about who is it that has power over food, whether it's in the household or whether it's the level of corporations and governments the world over. The inequality in power that produces hunger in women, that produces the fact that the majority of people going hungry are women and girls, is something that when you start pulling at that thread unravels a far broader world that I think we need to be talking about.
Great.
Great.